Hi everybody, welcome to another Linfield Coaches CatChat. Joe Stewart out here with head women's soccer coach Steve Simmons out at the beautiful Linfield Soccer and Lacrosse Complex. Coach Simmons, how you doing today?
Good. You know, it feels like September. You know, this is one of those wonderful fall days that we have here, and it'll be a fun week of training and getting ready for finally some home matches.
It's a great day for a great practice, you know? It is. But let's get into a tough road trip real quick before we do want to look ahead to this stretch of home affairs that you're going to have. But on Saturday, you go up to Tacoma. Always a tough trip. Fall to Puget Sound 3-0. And then fall to PLU 3-0. Those two have been running the conference for a long time. It's always going to be tough, and we talked about it last week. We knew it was going to be a tough test for your squad. Against UPS, all 3 goals allowed in the first half. What happened there, and then what adjustments did you make in the second to keep a clean sheet to those 45?
Yeah, I think the UPS game, they were really aggressive in the first half in particular. Caught us on our heels, and quite frankly, we get stunned, right? And so good teams like UPS are going to take advantage of that moment that we had in the first half. And in fairness, I thought the players rallied in the second to try to turn the tide, because you know, in those games, momentum is such a critical element of trying to create chances and trying to minimize chances against. But you know, that was a game where, you know, we want to play that again. We get a chance to do that down the road here. But we really wanted to get a better account of ourselves in the second half, and I thought our players bounced back. And, you know, the number of players who this was their first conference game was it was a good eye-opener, you know, and always disappointed when we don't get a result, but I think that you know, and I say this, that it'll serve those kids, our team, well going forward. Yeah, and then it was kind of a similar game script against PLU, similar shot differential. Although both matches, you did have chances certainly on the attack, just couldn't get them to go your way. Just overall, what did you see from this weekend to build forward as we get into the bulk of conference play? You know, when you do go into this type of weekend on the road, you're really gonna reveal where the team's competitive maturity is, and so with tons of new players that this is their first go, you know, we still have a way to go in that regard, but ability and things of that nature, it was on display in moments, right? I thought we actually played a better game against PLU. I thought there were moments where, you know, we had opportunities, but in credit, PLU, you know, they do what they do well, and didn't allow us to kind of get into those moments. And that's what we want to do better. We want to be able to sustain attacking moments better so that we can switch to momentum. You know, both UPS, PLU, they're land acquisition teams.
Yeah.
They want to be able to play in your half in their way, and that's why you see a lot of shot counts like that, right? And so we need to be able to kind of turn the tide when we're on the ball, and that's something that we're going to work on this week.
Yeah, and young players, it was the same situation last year. In that case, it's kind of more injuries forced you into that. This year, a big recruiting class, and you just have a lot of players, a lot of talented players who are fighting for those opportunities. What are the next steps on trending in the right direction for specifically your younger players that are still fighting for minutes on the pitch, and as you mentioned, now have 2 whole conference games under their belt, which is not a bunch? I
think the next steps are you know, being able to really learn, and then you know, have action steps to improve. And the one thing I will say that I never thought there was any doubt of work ethic from the group this week, and I thought that you know, when there were moments that we had to be resilient, they stayed resilient. So those are important facets when you're trying to you know, bring along the group that we have. And so this week will be a lot of being able to get on the ball, stay on the ball, win the ball back, try to get momentum, try to have the game in our opponent's half as much as possible.
Yeah, you're about to enjoy 7 of your next 8 at home after a really tough. How about it? After a really tough stretch to open the season. Obviously, I mean, you scheduled the Chicago tournament, but you know it was luck of the draw on the Tacoma trip. How do these first 5-6 matches of the year against really solid opponents? How do they benefit you going into a long home stretch like this, where you know you guys aren't going to have to be on the road? You know you don't have to worry about pre-scheduling team meals, hotels, any of that. You're in the friendly confines.
Sure. No, we are, and you know you bring up a good point about how these early games have how they were going to influence us going forward, and you know we can score goals. We've already shown that in a couple of the games. We have been we have been in a situation where teams are trying to sit back and not let us score. So we've had one of those games. We've had scenarios in the last 3 out of 4 games where we have very aggressive teams that now we have to find solutions for them. So I think we've had almost every single scenario thrown at us that we can work on and get better, and we want to do that going forward. And so, you know, we'll see if this early bit here is a blessing in disguise, and you know, and that we'll find that out. You know, November.
Down the road.
Yeah. But I think it will, and you know, and I believe that it will. I believe in this group. They believe in themselves. That's actually more important than me believing in them. I think they believe in themselves. They know that, you know, it's a game of margins, right? You know, you look at certain scores that we've had the last couple of games. Well, those are scores because the smaller details weren't capitalized on, and that score reflects that. And so oftentimes against different opponents you get away with stuff, and we didn't. And so that's what we want to do. We want to work on the margins, and the players, they're tuned in on it. I think they're excited to be home.
Yeah, definitely. And back to back. I mean, you guys haven't like we talked about last week. It's been since that Multnomah match all the way back in the first week of September.
That's right.
Since you played at home. But it's 2 teams that have got to be feeling confident that are coming in. Willamette starting out the year 3-2, and then Lewis and Clark 2-1, but just went out to Eastern Washington and came back with a couple of wins. Swept the Northwest Conference Student Athlete Awards this week, actually. How, after a couple of tough losses, do you match the confidence that those teams are likely going to be bringing into this weekend? Yeah,
you know, teams will come in with whatever their hangover is from the past weekend, and you know, for us, we don't want to have a hangover. You know, we want the next match is the next match, and you know what's happened is done, and so if we do well, that's great. It doesn't mean that that's going to be automatic. So you know, dealing with Willamette, Lewis, and Clark, they're going to do what they're going to do, and we're going to do what we're going to do. And what we're going to do is focus on the first game and then the second game. And you know, we want to try to move the needle from this last weekend, which we feel that the margin for error this last weekend was super small. And we'll expect that again, but we feel that, you know, we can better our performances, and if you better your performances, you'll get what you deserve.
Yeah, and hopefully it's all in front of some pretty good home crowds this weekend. That's what we're hoping for. Again, the Wildcats have 2 at home this weekend, on Saturday at noon hosting the Willamette Bearcats, and then on Sunday, doubleheader, first one of conference play, first doubleheader of conference play, and that'll be Lewis and Clark coming down to play the women. Pacific will be playing the men after. Women will be kicking off at about noon. Coach, good luck this weekend, and thanks for the time.
Thanks, Joe.